All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Masterful Conversations podcast, where we learn about leadership from the men who have served or are currently serving as Worshipful Master in a regular lodge of free and accepted Masons. I am Brother Matthew Wagstaff, a proud past master of Eureka Lodge number 36 in Rochester, New York. We're currently serving as our Worshipful Master is Brother Jermaine Myers, and I'm with
I am Past Master Mark Alexander of Sons of Kings Lodge number 123 out of Brooklyn, New York, where my worshipful master Fitzgerald Boyce Sr., the second, at present presides.
We both hail from the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. We're currently serving as our Grand Master is Reverend Dr., most worshipful Reverend Dr. Darren M. Morton. Before we get into the introduction of our esteemed guest this day, we have a quick disclaimer.
The views and opinions on this show is intended for informational and educational purposes. They are their own and not reflect the views and opinions of our lodges or grand chapter in this case. Please consult your local offices and proper people for all the questions that may come about.
Absolutely.
I'll be freestyling.
Yeah, we got it. So,
Mm.
so with that, we have our past master Nigel Cudjoe here with us this day on this episode of Masterful Conversations. He told me to buckle up because he has something he wants to share. I'm looking forward to it. Past Master Cudjoe is a past master of Prince Hall Lodge number 38 out of Harlem, New York. He served as Worshipful Master 4 terms, 1999, 2000, 2012, and 2019. He's also a past high priest of Eureka Chapter 17, Holy Royal Archmasons, also a past patron of Prince Hall Chapter number 27, Order Eastern Stars, and past Grand Worthy Patron in the years 2015 and 2016 for Eureka Grand Chapter. He is currently a newly elected Grand Secretary for the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of New York. Congratulations. And he received the 33rd and last degree of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite in 2014. This brother's been busy in the craft, from the men's side all the way to the women's side, the brothers and the sisters. This brother has a lot of leadership experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing about his journey. So welcome, Past Master Cudjoe.
Thank you. And let me acknowledge my worshipful master, Nikel Stephen of Prince Hall Lodge number 38, before we begin our conversation.
Fantastic. Absolutely. So, Past Master Cudjoe, this show is about leadership and your journey through leadership. So the first question for the day is just really for you to tell us about your journey to the East the first time. Give us a little bit of background in terms of when you were raised in the craft, and then any of the different spaces and stations that you were in as you journeyed to the East that first time.
Sure. So I would say my journey to the East began with my journey towards coming into the craft. I asked my good friend Edward Swire for a petition to join the craft, masonry. At the time I asked him, I really didn't know much about it. All I knew was he was a member, and if he was a member, it must be good. He told me no, that I wasn't ready, which, is a bit shocking to me. And he then told me that he wanted me to come up to Harlem, to spend some time in the library with him because he was grand librarian. So I started making this trek from Brooklyn on train. So I didn't have a car yet. Taking the train up every Monday and Wednesday. and going into the library with him. And I met a number of brothers like Luther McCoy, George Brown, Jody Lepore, and the list goes on. And they just talked to me about, masonry and about the craft. A year later, Ed presented me with a petition. Yeah, I completed it. I went through my 3 degrees, and I was raised, October 1991. I had, the benefit of my first appointment in the lodge being Senior Master of Ceremony. Now, the Senior Master of Ceremonies, is the first speaking part, I would say, in the lodge. From Senior Master of Ceremonies, I moved to Junior Deacon, then to Senior Deacon, Junior Warden, Senior Warden, Master. The good thing about that is that it took a number of years to get there, and it gave me enough time to get to know the members of my lodge and to get to understand the culture, of my lodge. One of the things that I am proud of is while I was in the East, during the opening, if anyone needed prompting, I prompted them from the East because I knew all the parts, because I served all of the chairs in getting to the East. So that gave me a certain degree of confidence, ritualistically, that helped me when it came to giving the lodge direction. I also had some very powerful mentors, along the way. Like a lot of times, Worshipful Master would pick a past master in his lodge, senior past master as his advisor. I had a lot of heavy hitters in my lodge, so I actually had an advisor that was not, member. He's an honorary member, but not a member of our lodge. My advisor was Most Worshipful Solomon Wallace. I used to, give him a phone call, and he would answer my call, and I would tell him certain things that I was thinking about, and he provided me with guidance. So I was always very comfortable, dealing with leadership, in the organization. I saw, the Grand Master and Grand Lodge officers, as resources, brothers that were there, to help me make my lodge better. So I called on them without hesitation.
And so, who tell us a little bit about the size of your lodge when you became Worshipful Master too. We like to give a little bit of
Sure.
context there too.
Our lodge, the size of our lodge has fluctuated roughly between 35 to 40. We've never really, broken I think at most we've had like 42. So we average, between 35 to 40 brothers. And that's brothers on the rolls. Brothers who actively attend meetings range from, I would say, like 10 to 15.
Yeah. And so thank you for the background too, in terms of like the fact that you held the speaking roles, as we say, in the lodge, and the confidence that instilled in you, and I'm sure it also instilled confidence in other men as well, that you were experiencing those spaces. When you became a warden, talk a little bit about how you may have prepared yourself for the East, and that, if anyone's listening right now that's a junior warden right now, or senior warden, or even who's not a warden right now but has aspirations to be in the East, how did you prepare yourself through that journey of going from the South to the West and then ultimately to the East?
Before touching on that, I have to point out that as I'm sure exists in some other lodges, back in the 90s, there was competition for seats, so you had to learn your work, or else, you get bumped off the line very easily. There's always somebody else there to take your seats. Also, we had a very active, past masters council. If they didn't think you were to move, you weren't going to move. And, I found that out early when the first time that my sponsor, Ed Swire, ran for junior warden. I would never forget that election night, because past masters showed up that I had never met before, never seen before, and they showed up with mission to not have him elected. Okay, he lost by 1 vote, and that's one of the first times also I had to really learn to subdue my passion, because I became very heated over it, because I felt that the person that got elected didn't put in the work, that Ed did. And Ed was a very nice, easygoing guy. He wasn't, he wasn't a fighter. So I sort of like designated myself as, the one who's going to, do the fighting for him. And on 2 occasions, I got escorted out of the lodge for that. But when I became the junior warden, Ed was the senior warden. And my goal, was to excel at my station, and support him, because he was the guy in front of me. So I followed the wishes of the Worshipful Master, but I made sure the brother right before me, senior warden, was okay. At that time, as junior warden, Prince Hall Lodge on 38 always had suites up at mid-year and grand session. And we were never a party lodge. So what went on in our suites is basically Grand Lodge officers would come, into the suite, sit down, have a meal, and discuss, events going on in the jurisdiction, how they were dealing with certain situations. So I actually, while serving as junior warden, making sure they had enough to eat and everything, was hearing a lot of the concerns that they had with what was going on in the jurisdiction, and some of their strategies for approaching, the various problems, may it be, fellowship related, fiscally related. That's where I got an opening into seeing how Grand Lodge functions, how it operates. So I benefited a lot from my warden's position.
What you're saying is kind of funny, because at least it's something that we were talking about over the last couple of interviews, which were, you have the young Mason in the room in the presence of the older Masons, and just being around and then hearing the things that's going on, and how that's really happening now. It's almost sort of like a lost art, but it's something for the younger people to maybe even think about. But also, when you was talking about Right Worshipful Ed Swire, he might not have been a fighter, but he definitely had fortitude, because he overcame that as far as him being turned down as junior warden in his lodge, and he wanted to become deputy grand master. So he definitely had fortitude to continue on and pursue masonry, because sometimes that turns people off, or the so-called political things that happen, just dealing with people. But thank God that he was able to fight past that. We have a highlight question of our show, which is what you think is effective leadership.
My thoughts on, effective leadership is that you have to be servant-minded, and not be so focused on yourself. Whenever a leader, especially in our organization, has excelled, the one trait that I've noticed is that they were focused on either the lodge, or the Grand Lodge, making it better, not promoting themselves. So I think that to be an effective leader, you have to care, and that care has to be not about you, but about the institution, about its members, and what you can do to help the institution be better, what you can do to help the members be better. When you focus on yourself, you run into problems. And I actually think that is the problem that's plaguing the craft today, because we have allowed the narcissism that exists in our society to infiltrate our organization. Too many members are, concerned about, having shiny collars, having a ton of pictures, on Facebook, and they're losing sight of, what it means to be, a Mason. They're losing sight of, what's necessary to keep, their lodge, functioning. Being a Mason, is not easy. It's a way of life. And once we take that obligation at the altar, it's supposed to, direct our steps. I was remarking to a member not too long ago that you can't separate yourself, from the organization once you join. You're associated with it. So yes, your Facebook page is your page, but when you put a post up, it's that brother from Eureka 36 put up this post. That brother from Pinhole 38 put up this post. Your lodge is associated, with your post. When you step outside the temple, how you conduct yourself, it's associated, with the organization. We were marching in the African American parade number of years back. It was before COVID. I remember we were marching as well, walking. A woman yelled out, "There goes them Masons, rapists." And the brother in front of me, was like, "What did she say?" I said, "Don't worry about it, just keep walking." So he yelled it out again. He's like, "Nah, she can't do that." I said, "Stop." He said, "She can't say that about us." I said, "How do you know she didn't have that experience?" Because at the end of the day, all right, our membership is made up of people who don't necessarily, try to live up, to the obligation that they took, So you don't know if that was her experience. And if that was her experience, then she's all entitled to say what she said, because that's her experience, Keep walking. like an upright man and Mason, you know, and try to phase out what she said. You know, that's what I said to him.
So as leaders, how do we help and persuade brothers to do what they're supposed to do, as far as uphold our obligations and our charges and things of that nature?
Whisper wise counsel. You know, when you see a brother, you know, straying off the path, you got to pull him to the side and have a conversation with him. You know, and it's best to whisper wise counsel because, you know, if you get up and, you know, make a big scene in the lodge or talk to in front of people, the message probably is not going to get across, you know, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to be embarrassed, you know. But if you pull that brother to the side and you have that intimate conversation with him, you know, and you explain, you know, to him the effect that his actions is having, you know, not just on the institution, you know, but on him, you know, his reputation, his life. You know, you may find the message more welcoming, and yeah, he may start to try and regulate his conduct. You know, because at the end of the day, we are responsible, you know, for our own conduct. Okay, we're presented the tools, you know, in the lodge to make ourselves better, you know, but we got to make that choice to apply those tools. Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly the concept of praise in public and criticize sort of in silence or behind the scenes is definitely something that's like a key leadership pillar. Whether you're in the craft or not in the craft, is you definitely want to make your praise super loud, but you want to make your sort of complaints or any sort of opportunities for improvement sort of on the side. So that wise counsel makes total sense. And, you know, we talk about remind him in the most tender manner of his failings. So, you know, in a very subtle way, but be direct too. Don't hold back. But it also goes back to what we've been hearing over the last dozen plus episodes is you got to know your brothers. You got to know what resonates with them. You got to know what they're willing to listen to. Some brothers you need to match that energy. Whatever that energy is, it could be high energy, it could be low energy. You need to match it so that they listen to you, or but you got to know that brother.
And that is actually one of my biggest struggles, you know, because yeah, I'm plagued with that thing I call Virgo criticism. Yeah, yeah, I have a low tolerance for, you know, I have a low tolerance for nonsense, and yeah, I have a way of you know, making a point sometimes that may come across, you know, as criticism and critical. Yeah, that's not, you know, that's not my intent. Yeah, it usually when I'm voicing something, chances are I'm passionate, you know, about it. And yeah, I love to debate. So yeah, you know, go full into sometimes I have to, you know, think a lot about what I'm saying and how I'm about to say, you know, what I say to make sure that you know, that I get the positive effect that I'm seeking. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and don't necessarily, you know, turn the brothers off. That's really hard today too, because man, I tell you, back in the 90s when I came through, yeah, they didn't care about your feelings. They just told you this is what it is, yeah, and you know, you basically just listen because you know you had respect for your elders. Like we understood that Masons meet on the level, but you know, when Bernard Holly spoke to me, you know, that was a father figure. So I you know, I would listen, you know, to what he said, you know, with respect. What I find, you know, today is that you know, uh some of the members, you got to be very careful, you know, how you talk to them, because you say the wrong thing, you know, now they upset and they lose, you know, they lose the whole message. You spend hours trying to calm them down so you could try to make a point, you know. So it you know, takes a lot, you know, takes a lot more work. And I think that's, that's why there's such a divide and such a lack of communication between some of the older brothers and the younger, because, frankly, a lot of old brothers, you only even know how to start the conversation, because, some of the younger brothers that come into the lodge today, read a lot of material on masonry and they think they're experts. They get raised, today and they think they could be master, tomorrow. And, of course, that's not how it works.
Well, that's the whole YouTube culture around, like, I watch a YouTube video, so now I'm an expert on this topic. I watched a 30-second snippet of something, but I know enough to talk about it. So, that culture certainly permeates because of the times that we're in. And you made a very good point that I think at least it resonated with me in terms of leaders need to care. Like, you gotta care. And in this day and age, the speed of things and the instant gratification, like, caring takes time, right? And, like, to know your brothers, to actually take the time to care takes a lot of time.
Nurturing. It's a nurturing of a relationship. So that's going to take some time.
It takes a ton of time. So you got to be willing to put that time in. And like I've always been saying, like, I work on my patience. I'm a lot better with patience. But, to be in a leadership space, to be a leadership role in the lodge in particular, like, that patience is huge, is key for you to sort of know your brothers, care about show that you care, and display that you have the leadership skills.
But when you put in that time, there's something else that you get, and that's trust.
Mm.
You gain the trust, of your brothers. They trust that you know what you're doing, and they trust, that you're gonna steer them in the right, in the right direction. And it takes time to do that. I told the Worshipful Master, some years ago, he was boasting about the speed with which he got to the East, and his youth, and I pulled him to the side and I said, listen, don't talk about that. Don't, that's not something to boast about. I said, the fact that you're in the East this quick, is not an acknowledgement of how good you are. It's an acknowledgement of how much trouble your lodge is in. I said, so, take that rhetoric down a bit and let's see how we can build your lodge up, so that young brothers get the time, to travel through the chairs, and learn the lodge system before throwing them into that hot seat called the East.
Very much so. I picked up a line that I flipped from the House of the Dragons when they said, what is it? Well, it would be the East is not a prize to be won, but a burden to bear. You know what I mean? So most people just try to make it a prize, something to win, the shiny thing to go out there and get, but don't realize the weight it is once you up there and actually have to take care of our mother. Our mother lodge, who can't take care of herself, depend on us. Our mother is completely helpless. It takes us to take care of her. So it's definitely a burden that, if taken care of right, then you'll feel the weight and the responsibility and you'll do your best for your lodge. Now, there's something particularly about your journey that we definitely don't want to skip, being that you made it to Grand Worthy Patron, and that leadership role within the chapters is a little bit different, particular that you are almost like a co-leader, almost to the sense of being a worthy patron or Grand Worthy Patron. Can you speak to that, and especially some of the relationship dealing with having a leader also right behind your worthy matron, or they're dealing with that type of relationship?
Well, let me say this first to begin with. Service in the Order of Eastern Star, to me, is one of the greatest tests of how much of a Mason you are. It really tests your ability to subdue your passions. And your ability to, you know, wield power and authority without having the power and authority.
Mhm.
So, yeah, when I came out of the East, Past Master Amos Richmond from my lodge had been worthy patron in Prince Hall 27 for a number of years. You know, and he dropped the petition down in front of me and said, "Boy, fill this out." Yeah, I picked it up and I looked at it. I was like, "Or Eastern Style stuff." I said, "What's this?" He says, "Petition for Eastern Style." I said, "And this the women's stuff?" He's like, "Yeah, so fill it out and sign it." Yeah. I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I'm bringing you in to be a patron." And I said, "What's a patron?" He said, "Fill out the application and find out." I had a tremendous amount of respect
Trust.
and trust for my brother. Filled out the application, and I I joined the chapter. Yeah. So I wasn't the worthy patron. Yeah, it was the associate patron. Yeah. Patron didn't come to me and I had to, go in the East and open up and I had to say the prayer. Yeah. So I went to the altar, yeah, flipped open the book and read that prayer and felt like I did something. Yeah. One of the senior past matrons, past matron Jacqueline Johnson, past Grand Worthy Matron Wilma Johnson's sister. She said, "Come here. Don't you ever do that again." I said, "What I do?" She said, "Open the book at the altar. You don't do that again. If you don't know the prayer, you go to church, say a prayer, make a prayer, but don't you read nothing at that altar." I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And that has never happened again. So I said, "Okay, yeah, I gotta figure out this worthy patron thing." So yeah, I said to her sister, Wilma Johnson, I said, "Well, yeah, the brothers say they want me to be the patron next year. What I gotta do to prepare?" She said, "Learn everything in that book that got WP in front of it." I said, "Okay." Then I went and I opened the book and I saw there's a whole lot of stuff had WP in front of it. I was like, geez, this a lot. But I dug in and started, studying the work. So when I was being installed in 2004 for the first time as worthy patron, uh, William Dyson, Grand Worthy Patron at the time, you know, came to the chapter to do the installation. And while he was installing me at the altar, yeah, I don't think he missed the word, but he kind of halted. And I thought he had gotten stuck. And I prompted him. And he said, you know this word?" Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, I studied it." Yeah, I said, "Wilma Johnson told me, told me study it." He said, "That's good." Yeah. He said, "Because you're not only a worthy patron, you're a district deputy grand patron."
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, that works.
So that's what happened, when you learn to work. So I went and I really enjoyed, doing the ritualistic work. Um, and yeah, that led me to making a lot of friends in the order. However, what I loved about being worthy patron is that you know, as worthy patron, you're not in charge. You're an advisor to the worthy matron. Okay. I felt I was able to advise because I had served in the East. Yeah. So I get some brothers upset sometimes when I say, it is my belief that you should be a past master to serve as worthy patron, because how are you going to advise the worthy matron when you haven't presided yourself? Yeah, that's, that's just my view. But I yeah, I understand with that advice that she doesn't have to take it. Yeah. So if she chooses not to take it, yeah, I don't get in my feelings, because if it's good advice, okay, she's going to have to deal with the consequences of not following it. Yeah. But one of the things that I practice, because I learned this from Amos Richmond, is that when I give that advice, it was always a whisper. I I don't get up and do much talking in Eastern Star chapters. I allow the worthy patron to run her meeting. Yeah.
Worthy matron.
Yeah. I allow the worthy matron to run her meeting. And if she you know, needs a little guidance, I'm up there. Whisper it to her and let her take care of what needs to get taken care of. We do, you know, we do a lot of talking in our lodges. We run things in our lodges. We're there to empower, our sisters, and have them blossom into the leaders that they can be. So we're there to serve, we're there to facilitate, we're there to help. We're not there to control. Yeah.
And how does that leadership look on the state level as Grand Worthy Patron?
Totally different. When I was being installed as Grand Worthy Patron, as I was listening to the words, of the installing officer, Past Grand Worthy Patron George Robinson, I was shaken. Yeah, I was shaken because I felt the weight of responsibility. Because what he basically said to me was, anything happened in that order, I had to answer for it. I had to answer to the Grand Master and to Grand Lodge for anything that went wrong in Eureka Grand Chapter. And at the same time that I was being told that, I was also being told that, I'm responsible, for protecting, the interests of all those sisters, in that order, that I am their voice, in Grand Lodge, that I am their advocate, So it's this dual role that you're filling, and it's it's a pretty heavy burden. See, because the because we have a tendency to introduce the Grand Matron and she does most of the talking, the Grand Patron's office is sometimes not seen, with all of the responsibility, that it entails, but in actuality, after the Grand Master, the Grand Patron is responsible for the most people in the state. Yeah. And the only person that has a check on the power and authority of the Grand Patron is the Grand Master. So I always say to sisters, you got to be very mindful, who you elect, to these positions, because you're actually giving them, a lot of authority. Some Grand Patrons in other states, have challenged the authority of Grand Masters, and the sisters have ended up paying the price with their charter being taken and no Order Eastern Star. for a minute until a Grand Master feels like reactivating the Grand Chapter. So it's a lot of it's a lot of responsibility. I was very fortunate and very privileged because I had a good partner, when I presided as Grand Worthy Patron. Past Grand Worthy Matron, Lisa Horton, was a real sister. And she embodied the point that I made earlier when I said, a good leader cares. She cares about the order. Matter of fact, the order is the only house she belongs to. When she asked me to take this journey with her, my first question was, what do you plan to do as worthy matron that I would want to spend take my time to go on this journey with you? Okay. And she wasn't offended by my question. She laid out her vision and her plan. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Then I asked her, why me? And she told me she knew I was knowledgeable in the Constitution, knew my ritualistic work, but I also owned my own business, and it was in IT, and that I could, upgrade the office operations and process of Eureka Grand Chapter. That told me right there that, that sister put some thought. She wasn't just, looking to grab a title. She wanted to make this Grand Chapter better. And I said, okay, I'm gonna sign up to do this with her because I think we're gonna do some good. And I think we did.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, it's good to hear the other side. I know we talk about the Blue House and in our conversations, but to hear the other side, I think we could learn a lot of gems. It sounds like Past Grand Worthy Matron Horton displayed several of the characteristics that we've heard over the last several episodes as well, in terms of her having a vision, also having a plan for that vision, and then also knowing the people who she wants to empower and support to help her realize that vision. We talk about knowing the people and putting them in the right places and positions based on knowing them enough to be able to give them the proper assignment for their God-given talents and gifts. In that same vein, we talk about leadership, vision, and plan. Can you take us back in time a little bit and talk about what was your vision for your lodge? It could be at either time, either in 99, 2000, 2012, 2019. I would love to, know, like, what was your vision early in your first couple of years as master, and then how that may have evolved in terms of what you focused on as the master of the lodge. So yeah, can you take us back in time and tell us about what were your key focus points for your lodge when you first started, and then how that may have evolved or stayed the same throughout your next couple years?
So when I first became master, the lodge was like a well-oiled machine. Okay. We did our first degree, in March. We did our second degree in May. We did our third degree in October. It didn't matter when anybody asked for petition, that was the schedule, So it was a well-oiled machine. We had a Mother's Day event in May, which has now become our annual dinner dance. But we had that event in May, and then the one thing that the master got to throw in was basically any charity type related event you wanted to do, you either find a spot for it in the fall or the spring schedule was always tight because the Grand Lodge used to do the annual bazaar, and we supported we
of course
supported it fully. So one of the things that I learned from my mother was generosity and looking out for those less fortunate. So one of the things that I wanted to do, my mother used to prepare food and distribute to the homeless. Yeah, and I used to go with her to to do that. It no longer exists, but there used to be a tent city on the Manhattan side of the Manhattan Bridge where some homeless people lived, and that used to be the second stop. The first stop was Atlantic Avenue at Bedford, the men's shelter, and we share out some food there. Then we hit Manhattan Bridge, and then the last stop would be in the Bowery. Yeah, and I always felt that as Masons, we needed to do something like that. So one of the things that we did under my first couple of administrations is I had my mom, prepared food. We of course paid for the materials, everything, and we shared out food at various shelters. In addition to that, we had a casino bus ride in the fall and that Mother's Day, event. But the thing, yeah, the thing that was challenging about my first 2 years as master is that we had members that would test you. Yeah, I had a past master, God bless him, that used to every time the master said, anybody got anything to bring to the lodge before I proceed to close? He was the marshal, and he would get up and he would walk up the north side to the east, walk back down, walk across the west, walk up the south side, walk back down, and he's recapping the meeting while, doing this walk. And it used to drive me crazy because being a young man in the lodge, I'm trying to hit my soca parties after the lodge meeting. So I'm watching the clock and this guy's just walking around talking. So when I got to the east, yeah, yeah, it's the January meeting because we didn't have that in December. By the January meeting, I said, anybody got anything to bring to the lodge before I proceed to close? Yeah, he got up. I said, you got 2 minutes. He said, 2 minutes? Yeah, I don't get no time limit put on me. I said, now you got about a minute and a half. What you gonna do with it? He said, I might as well sit down. I said, that'll work.
Hope we didn't lose that brother though. Did you
So now,
what happened to that brother?
oh no, we didn't lose him. But
Okay.
he was waiting to have a conversation with me after the meeting.
Was it in a tender manner?
Yeah, in a But I remember Bernard, most worshipful Bernard at Harlem, with that deep bass laughing. I've been waiting. I've been waiting a long time for somebody to do that. So I actually got some encouragement from the other past masters, in having the guts to do that, because it showed that I was ready to lead the lodge.
Yeah.
Another challenge I had came from our senior past master, Danny Jones. Now, there's a lodge that was struggling. Is struggling pretty bad at the time. And the worship master was a past master, went back and he couldn't put together a team to do the first degree. So he had asked the district deputy grand master if he would give him a dispensation, to take them to our lodge because we were doing a first degree. Yeah. And the district deputy grand master told him, you give it to him if the worshipful master agreed. Worshipful master being me. So, I talked to my past masters about it, and the senior past master said to me, it's unconstitutional. Don't do it. Yeah. He said, yeah, he said, I don't care if you get a dispensation, yeah, follow the Constitution, don't do it. Yeah. So I sat down and I thought about it, and I said, well, yeah, I do like being a strict constitutionalist, but I also like being that brother that's ready to help a brother in need. So, I'm not too sure, what to do here. And after giving it some thought, I decided I prefer to help a brother in need and help that other lodge out.
Mm-hmm.
So I told the district deputy grand master, I'll do it. So neither the degree, senior past master was there, and he helped with conducting candidate and everything, But after the degree, he pulled me to the side and he said, I told you not to do, not to do this because it was not constitutional and you did it anyway. So you know what? Don't ask me for any more advice because you don't listen. When I give it. And I said to him, I'm the worship master of this lodge and you're past master. And I'll ask you for advice whenever I want it, and you will give it to me. And I will decide whether I'm going to take it or not. That's how this lodge works. Yeah.
Son.
And he looked at me, he smiled, and as he turned walking away, he said to Bernard Holly, we got a master. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll give you one last story. And I'm not too sure if you're familiar with Brother Leon Gladman.
Of course.
He was raised in Prince Hall Lodge number 38, by the way. So Leon got me really good one night because he got up and he said, Worshipful Master, you're intimidating me because I feel like I can't speak in my lodge. Because every time I get up, you pick up the gavel. Now, he...
Wait a minute, you said Leon was intimidated to speak?
He said, because every time he got up, I picked up the gavel.
He already had the hammer cocked.
He was ready.
Yeah. Right. But he was pretty slick because what he did was he played to my sense of fairness, in dealing with brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So once he opens with that, I'm like, no, you're a member of this lodge. You want to speak to your brothers, you can speak. And what do you have to say? So he started off commending me on the job that I was doing, as Worshipful Master. Yeah. And I was like, okay, look like he gonna talk for a while. I put the gavel down. Yeah. And if you know the way the Grand East is, the way it is, you could step away from the podium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I stepped away like to the side while he was talking. And then he went after the secretary. Now he and I had spoken before the meeting, and he had his complaint about the secretary because I was sending the communications out, not the secretary. And he felt that I should not have been doing that because it's the secretary's job. And I told him, that's not your concern. Don't, leave the secretary alone. But he wanted to get to the secretary. And I gave him the floor. Yeah. And he took that shot real quick. And by the time I reached over and grabbed the gavel, the secretary got up and said, I don't need this shit. Worshipful Master, here's your books, I quit. And left.
Wow.
Now I'm standing up there in the east, steaming. And Leon standing west of the altar with a smirk on his face. And then he said, "Worshipful Master, calm down. You look like you want to throw that gavel at me." Yeah. He read my mind. That is what I was thinking.
All
I
the
was,
subduing in the world you needed right there, huh?
oh man, I was so upset. I had to turn to my buddy, Ed Swire, and he went and sat in that secretary's seat, for me. And he sat there for about 4 years until I took the secretary's position in 2005. And I only left it in 2012 when I went back as master, and in 2018 and 2019. So I've been doing that secretary thing for some years.
No. Well, I know there's a lot more that we can dive into. I think we maybe have maybe one or two more questions with the time we have here. And we could probably go for at least for another hour. I know because I mean serving for 4 years and being on both sides too, on the chapter and in the Granny, it's just a lot we can dive into right now. So we definitely got to have you back on the show, Past Master, for sure. Mark, you have anything before I ask the last question?
No, you can go ahead.
All right, so we asked this question sort of hypothetically speaking, for sure. You have more than enough on your plate right now that I know this thought is not even coming to your mind right now. However, since that you served in 99, 2000, 2012, and then 2019, you probably got some things done that you were proud of. You probably didn't get some things done that you wanted to get done, maybe. But if you were to go back into the East, at Prince Hall Lodge number 38 in 2025, what would your leadership style look like, and what would you focus on as Worshipful Master? And this is hypothetical. Like the answer of "I would not do that" is not an acceptable answer. So we need to understand. We want, if you were to go back in, what would you focus on? What would your leadership style look like in this day and age, 2025?
I would actually like to mirror my 2019 year.
Okay.
When I went back, in 2012, it was to basically get the lodge back on track and show the senior warden how things are supposed to be done. So I really didn't do too much in 2012. I laid down a foundation, but the things that I wanted to do, I left it for the next master to do. And the interesting thing about it is that he went in and did not execute. However, his warden, Past Master Jamal Ali, stepped up, and executed, that vision that that I sort of like planted the seed for in 2012, and we became a active part of the Prince Hall Connection, which is a group of lodges that all start with the name Prince Hall. Prince Hall 38 in New York, Prince Hall 38 in Baltimore, Prince Hall 27 in New Jersey, Prince Hall 57 in Pennsylvania, Prince Hall 14 in Washington, D.C. And in 2014, we gathered at our grandees at our June meeting, and try not to get emotional, but that was the last meeting that Past Grand, most worshipful Past Grand Master Bernard L. Holly attended. Jamal did the work to put that together. The master showed up that night though, and received all the credit. Yeah. But it's I told Jamal, I was very proud of him, for all the work that he did, and I'm still proud of him today. He's done right by our lodge, and he's made us quite proud. Now in 2019, again, it was sort of like getting the lodge on track, but I decided I was going to have fun that year, and I was going to basically do some things that I wanted to do as master. So one of the things we did in March, we visited Prince Hall Lodge number 38 in Maryland for a historic visit. We all the brothers that were present that night from Prince Hall Connection signed a white apron that's in a display case up at their temple. You know, we exchanged gifts and had some like great fellowship. That year, I also gave to each of our widows a widow's pin and a certificate that went with it. But the night that we gave Edna Holly her pin was also the night that we unveiled the portrait of Bernard L. Holly that hangs in the office of this Grand Secretary, you know, right now. So, you know, and we did that at a fellowship night, you know, that we had at the, you know, that we had at the Grandies. So from that year, yeah, I have pictures of myself with each of the widows and I was presenting them. And yeah, they each meant a lot to me. Of course, Edna Holly, her husband, is one of my mentors. Widow, Helen Harris. I went out to Florida to deliver her pin and her certificate to her. Her husband.
That was the wife of the brother that the first past master, right? I mean the older past master. That
Well,
was
her
that his
Harris, no.
yeah. Oh, okay, I thought that was the
Her
same last name.
husband,
Okay.
no, her husband was actually my cable toe.
Oh, okay, okay.
And he was my cable toe and my senior warden. And you know, served right after me. And Sister Mildred Dennis, I never met her husband, Past Master Gus Dennis. But Mildred Dennis was a member of Prince Hall, chapter number 27. And a sister that was always kind and supportive of me. So to present those three women, you know, with this gift, you know, from the lodge, you know, was, you know, it was just great. But on top of that, we had a annual dinner dance, and we gave out 2 scholarships. The Right Worshipful Edward D. Swire Scholarship we gave to 2 young men. One of those young men being a Knight Upper Pythagoras. But that young man's father installed me as Grand Worthy Patron. And we, you know, so it was very touching for me, for his son to receive, you know, that scholarship named after my best friend, my daughter's godfather, you know, to go off to college. But that night I also presented the Bernard L. Holly Masonic Excellence Award to a dear friend of mine that I admire, Past Master Charles Pryor Sr. You know, and yeah, so that 2019 year was a year full of, you know, of accomplishments. And I look back on it, you know, with a whole lot of pride, you know, a whole lot of emotion. I also at that event presented a certificate of appreciation to a couple of sisters of our Eastern Star chapter who's always been supportive. You know, past matron Connie McQueen, past matron Toby Cooper. So it was a great year in terms of what I was able to accomplish as Worshipful Master. But what you might have detected the theme there is I always got exceeding pleasure doing something for others, honoring, others, and being grateful for the privilege that I've had to be a member of this lodge, and to serve, this lodge, and this jurisdiction, and yeah, what I love about this podcast is that yeah, I've got past Master Nigel Cudjoe here, not right worshipful. I would have been okay with brother too, but I wear my past master's apron, with pride because, it's what my lodge presented to me. Yeah. And I feel that I earned it.
Very much so, Past Master Cudjoe. We truly thank you for coming on to our podcast this evening. You are definitely a treasure trove of knowledge and history. And you have left us with a few things to think about through your stories of your life and your journey. One definitely part is being a servant leader is very important, and caring about the membership, because you can't do nothing if you're not caring about them properly. You focus on the institution and not yourself. You definitely left that as a gem for the younger members, and you felt they was not thinking about self more than the institution. And one thing that's definitely a highlight is time with your brothers equals trust, because in any institution, it won't survive if they don't trust, and trust can and will and currently and hopefully it does stop tearing down our lodges and chapters in other organizations. So take time with your membership, learn them, and the trust to build, and then y'all can build y'all organization together. Thanks again, Past Master Cudjoe.
Thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation, my brothers.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Even when you were assistant grand secretary, all the work that you put in. I haven't known you that long, but for the time that I have known you, you've been an upright man that I've seen. And I can't believe the fact that you used to like blow off the top, because every time I've seen you, you've been so very like calm and chill and just very like even keel. So it sounds like that rough Ashler has been worked on, and you're getting closer and closer to that Ashler that we all aspire to be through the work.
See, Wag, you got hope. You got hope.
Listen, I am a testament.
I attribute that entirely to the craft, because when Esquire told me I wasn't ready, basically because I was a hothead.
Mm.
I had a really bad temper.
Yeah. Now it's just lukewarm now, at least from what I've seen. So it's definitely not hot. You got to keep a little bit on them. Sometimes you got to pop out, like they say. Sometimes you got to pop out.
So pop on. So
we don't want Volcano Cudjoe to erupt. No, we don't want that.
Absolutely. Again, congratulations on your recent election and new job in our Grand Lodge as Grand Secretary. I know that you will do great things in that role as well, and I look forward to the next chapter for you, Past Master, as well. So with that, great conversation. Thank you, everybody who is listening to this podcast right now, for giving us your most valuable resource, your time. Please like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate seeing the comments. We appreciate all the positive feedback. As always, it's much appreciated. Much love.
Oh, wait, let me give I'm not going to give, I just want to one part of talking about feedback, man. I definitely have been getting a lot of hits, and I want to thank everybody for it. I received a phone call from Brother Virginia out of nowhere talking about the podcast. That felt so good. So, thank you again for listening. Just leave the feedback on the comments and emails. You can email us. What's the email, Wag?
Yeah, masterfulconversations@gmail.com. But I like the comment section of that. I like the comments
that
going
too.
too.
That too.
You
Yeah.
gotta let the algorithm do the algorithm thing. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So yes, like, subscribe, share. If you There's a ton of gems that were shared in this conversation today. If there's anything in there that was of particular interest to you, please make sure you share that with somebody else so that we can continue to grow and develop as humans, brothers and sisters that are listening to this podcast. So we hope and pray that what you heard today will allow you to grow as a leader for yourself, for your family, and for your organization if you're in the craft or if you're not in the craft. We hope that you can continue to grow. And always remember that leadership starts with ourselves. So please continue to use all the information that you receive, apply it in your life so that you can be that example, so that those who follow you know that they know can trust you as a leader. Until the next time, everyone, have a great one and God bless.
Good work, my brothers.